Hello and welcome to another Mr. and Mrs. Yogi. It is Andrew and Mary live from Miami.
Here we are.
And we've been here all week long and decided to do this episode specifically on the reason we're in Miami, as opposed to continuing with the Niyamas. So we're taking a break because this is a very special time that we're here, and it is for Mary's egg donation, to be a donor to a couple or a family that wasn't able to have children. So I would like to dedicate this episode to what Mary has been through and myself through the process. For those of you that are considering it or have been through the process, it's certainly enlightening. It was for me. We would like to share it with you.
Yeah.
All right, so Mary, and again, we're outside out of a diner here in Miami, so you hear birds chirping.
Traffic.
And we're a little bit echoey. We're not in our Mr. and Mrs. Yogi's castle.
We're not at the castle.
We're not in a castle. We're in a little cove outside of a movie theater in Miami to give you a little ambiance.
Just enjoying the fresh air.
So, Mary, it's interesting because I'm basically interviewing you right now, as you are the subject of this whole egg retrieval process, egg donation. Why? What made you want to do this? And now, for those of you listening, you're going to say, well, why is he asking her? Of course he knows. Yes, I'm sure I know the answers to many of these questions, but it's for you, for you listening, so I have to play dumb.
Yeah. Well,
play dumber than usual.
We did mention, I think, last week a little bit, if you heard, that my sister and her husband, they struggled for several years trying to get pregnant, and just they had some issues with that. So knowing that is the only thing they wanted in life, and that's what they've been trying for ever since they got married, and not being able to fulfill that dream, I was just touched. And they had a couple miscarriages as well. It was just really hard for them and hard for me. I'm a very emotional person, very empathetic, and I felt so helpless. And I talked to Andrew shortly after we got married, and I said, it's so sad that all they want is a family, and we don't want to have kids anytime soon. So,
Mary, I just want to step in for a brief moment, because you're really, what you're saying is valuable and important, and bringing us to the moment you decided. But I want to say that when it comes to Mary and myself having children, it's not like we are, we don't like kids, we can't stand kids. Like, we're not necessarily like that. It's just we don't feel truly like we want to have them right now. So instead of having them because it's quote-unquote what we're supposed to do or because we're able to, sometimes we've witnessed people in our own lives who end up having children, and then it's almost like getting getting a pet. When someone gets a pet and they're like, you know what, after 6 months, I don't really like having a dog, and then you can't return it. So
it's not fair to the child if they're not wanted and they come into a world where it's just, we're just not prepared. We're not prepared financially or emotionally. I mean, I can barely take care of myself. So
we're enjoying our lives as is.
We need to make sure that we get into a place where we can have children before we even consider that. So I talked to Andrew and I said, I really feel strongly that I want to help in some way, not just my sister, but other people, because there's so many people out there. We learned, through this whole journey that there's so many people that want to have a family and can't. And here we are just like living our lives, not worrying about it. So
you came up to me one day.
So that's when I started researching egg donation and surrogacy and stuff like that. And I talked to Andrew about surrogacy, and he very quickly vetoed that. He said he would not feel comfortable with me carrying another man's child.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would have been my brother-in-law, your brother-in-law.
No, not specifically for them. They didn't consider surrogacy.
Well, that I wouldn't have liked either, but I didn't like the whole idea of you carrying another man's product.
Yeah, which I got, and I said I would defer to him on that. I didn't want to do anything that would make him feel uncomfortable. So then we started looking at egg donation, and we talked about it. and talked about the pros and cons and how that affects your body and everything. And really, there weren't any red flags. And we both agreed that this was something I could do. I wasn't going to donate my eggs to my sister because that's not the problem that they were having with their fertility issues. But it was during that time, I applied online to be an egg donor because I was inspired by their story.
And you got approved, and you asked me the question, would I mind? And if you're listening and wondering, maybe as a man, and if your partner came to you and asked you this question, how would you react? My initial reaction was, yeah, I'm okay with that. But did the thought go through my mind, well, after the eggs are taken from her, put into another woman, and then another man's sperm is going to impregnate my wife's eggs inside of another woman, is that weird? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the whole process is fascinating, amazing, weird, to lack of a better word. But in the whole realm of things, I know the reason that she did it and asked me about it. And I said, it's the greatest good because she's helping somebody fulfill a dream,
That's exactly how I felt about it. I really wanted to help people because it's something I could do. I could do it. And I wanted to do it.
We touched on this a little bit last episode, the vetting process to be an egg donor. So if I were a woman, I would not be cleared because
you're messed up.
Yeah, nobody will want my eggs. So can you talk a little bit about the process? So you get approved, right?
Well,
and then what happens with your picture? How does that work?
Well, your application is it takes a while to review it. Actually, I applied in winter at some point, and I didn't get approved until probably June. And it was during that time of waiting that my sister and her husband conceived, and they were able to carry the baby full term,
which was amazing. Really, it was almost like they got rewarded because you did something.
I kind of like to think that had something to do with it. Yeah.
I don't know. We could speculate, but anyway, they have a nice baby boy.
Beautiful boy.
So it's amazing that was able to happen once you made the decision to donate.
Yeah. So after the application is put in, and like Andrew said, it is really rigorous. There's a lot of questions, and you have to put your entire family's medical history, basically. And I'm just very grateful that I've never smoked or done any drugs and stuff like that. I have a very clean bill of health. I've never really been on any medication, stuff like that. So once you get approved, they ask for some current pictures of you, and
I think this is great because I didn't know all this, and it's like almost like a dating site.
Yeah, they ask for a couple baby pictures as well because I think people want to see my baby would be that's so cute.
Totally.
Send a couple current pictures of yourself, like 3, and then I got a call from them, and they asked me some questions about my education and what do I do for a living, and basically how smart are you? And I had to kind of explain it because I was homeschooled and I didn't go to college, but I am working a full-time job and I'm very successful. So I had to explain it in a way that they would understand. Even though I don't have a PhD or a bachelor's degree, I am very successful. I'm very smart. I'm very good at my job. I have a good work ethic, and
very modest.
Well, I'm selling myself here, basically.
This is true. You did.
I just had to put it in a certain way that they would understand. I'm not a dumb blonde.
No.
People look at this picture and say, "Oh, she didn't even go to school," basically.
Right.
You need to understand. Well, that's not really the case. I have the abilities that you're looking for in a child.
Although I think, given the state of our public schools, the concept of homeschooling and what used to be the thought associated with people who are homeschooled has changed enormously over the last 20, 30 years, that more people are choosing to be homeschooled and homeschool their children because it's better in a lot of cases than sending your kids through the insanity that are public schools. So I think at one point in time, homeschooling was looked at as like ding 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 ding, like a backwoods sort of redneck country kind of stuff. But yeah, but it's not at all, and I can attest. I mean, look, Mary's absolutely sharp as a tack. So I don't think you had trouble clearing your name with that. So once your picture is approved, minus the one of us making out, I tried to get some FaceTime in there.
They're very careful. They say you don't want other people in the picture if possible.
But where do they put it?
They put it on their website, I believe, and they also have like a physical book, so people who are local to them can go into the office. They can look through the pictures, or if you're online, you can just flip through the pictures and stuff. I believe this candidate was, this intended parent was online because they're in a different state.
So once they see you,
they pick out the prettiest picture,
and once the couple chooses you, then what happens?
Then I got a call from my cycle coordinator, and she said, "Hey, guess what? Someone really likes you."
How did you feel when you got that call?
I was jumping up and down. I was like very flattered.
Did you ever doubt that you would get picked?
It's little old me. Yeah, I mean, there's
you did?
Tons of gorgeous people out there, and then it's just like I wasn't super thrilled with my pictures that I had sent in, but they were the only ones that were like full body because we want to make sure it's not just your face.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like thrilled with that, and I know I hadn't set my best foot forward or face forward, but
you were blonde hair, blue eyes, American apple pie. You were Aryan. Yeah, I mean, like you would have been. Hitler wouldn't have touched you. I would have been put like a pizza in the oven as fast as possible.
Yeah, it felt amazing. She told me, yeah, there is a couple interested in you. They have some questions though about some medical stuff. And they had seen that seizures run in my family because my cousin suffers from seizures. And so they wanted to know more, like, was that a genetic thing?
Yeah.
Or is that something environmental? Or that came on, somewhere? Does anyone else have it? Blah, blah, blah. So they're allowed to ask questions because they're reviewing all the information I put in there. I had to do a little research on my end about that and ask my aunt kind of, about the seizures. What have they learned? Have they been able to fix it yet? And actually that couple fell through. I don't know if they were satisfied with my answers, but it was kind of sad because after being chosen, it was like, well, we don't want to risk it. I get that.
I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot by saying this, but I don't remember that. And that's kind of sad that happened. I didn't know that. And you're going to say, yeah, I told you that. And I know by bringing it up, I'm digging myself a little hole. But I don't remember that. But it is fascinating that happened.
It did. But it was very shortly thereafter that she called me again. It was like a week later. She said, well, there's another couple, and they're looking into this. And, the whole thing is also based on, is it a known adoption? Do you want to be known by them? Do they want to be known by you? Do you want to FaceTime? Do you want to call on the phone? So I said...
What are the rules and regulations about that? Break it down.
Basically,
as best you can.
It is up to both sides. I can say, I don't want anyone to see me. I don't want anyone to talk to me. I don't want to have any part in this except just donate an eggs. That's it. They can't know my name. They can't know anything about me.
So what do they know? What in the lookbook or on the web?
They see my picture and they have my information about medical history, where I went to school, how tall I am, how
your
much
age.
I weigh, yeah, all that stuff.
What about your name?
They don't know my name unless I want it to be revealed.
Oh.
So I told them I'm fine if they want to know my name.
Hello, this is Mary.
There's probably like a gazillion Mary Gordons to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's something. And I said, I'm fine if they want to meet me. I'm fine if they want to talk to me. If they want to Skype me. I think I do better in person.
Does that ever happen?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But that did not happen with you.
No, because it's up to me what to do, but it's also up to the parent how much they want to know.
They didn't want that.
They didn't want to Skype with me. They didn't want to talk to me, but they could have, and I was open for that. But yeah, they chose to just keep it closed adoption. But because this intended parent was in Miami, in Florida, due to the Zika virus laws and regulation, we did have to sign paperwork together where our names would be on the contract. So they do know my name and I do know their name. And so it's technically known because they know who I am.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they look like or anything like that.
So once you're chosen and everything is confirmed, what happens next, and how long of a process in the next phase?
It took me about 6 months, and they said, like, you don't really want to tell anyone right now because it can still be canceled. We have to do blood tests every few weeks. We have to do a psych evaluation. I have to go on some medication. I have to go on birth control.
Yep.
And it took a really long time. It took about 6 months.
And you don't normally take birth control. If you're wondering, listening, Mary does not take it.
No.
So that was new for her.
So they have you kind of doing these things, and they have to talk to the clinic, and then the clinic has to talk back to them, and then they talk to me. So there's a lot of working parts.
How long of a process till you get the green light through psych eval and all that?
It took 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
And that was my first visit into the Miami clinic. Was 6 months later. I think it was around then, at least.
So they fly you in. We're located in Charlotte, North Carolina.
They flew me to the clinic where the intended parents would be.
Okay, and that in this case is in Miami.
Yeah.
So when you flew in that first time, which I was not with you, what happens then?
It was just a one-day trip, and it was just to have an initial checkup with the doctor who'd be doing the procedure. And they wanted to do it. He's very hands-on. Well, that sounds weird. He is.
That does sound weird.
He's like.
Is he really hands-on?
He's a bit of kind of out of control freak.
I met him yesterday.
I appreciate that because you definitely want someone who cares a lot, and he wanted to know everything and make sure it was perfect. So that's why I flew in there for the initial checkup. They did a TVU, an ultrasound, and they did a lot of blood work. Like 7 vials, lots of blood work, to do like a full panel to see if...
By the way, that scream had nothing to do with us.
See if I had...
Nobody was hurt in the making of this recording. To see if you had, go ahead. I'm sorry, you hear a random scream, you have to address it. Don't shut down. Don't shut down. Pull it together. You got this. You get the approval. Don't shut down. Please don't. You go back to Charlotte.
No. I was talking about Dr. Atkins.
Please continue.
Take that part out for me.
Of course.
So, my doctor really wanted to make sure he knew everything right up front. They did a TVU, an ultrasound. They did a lot of blood work to see if I had any...
What's a TVU?
Transvaginal ultrasound.
Okay.
And they had to do all the blood work to make sure I didn't have any diseases. I didn't have, any type of virus from overseas and all that. I mean, you can't even be out of the country for I think a year prior to doing this. So he did all that right up front for the first checkup, but all of the rest of them were done locally, so that I didn't have to keep flying to Miami, and they would just talk between the two clinics.
So how long was that process back getting your checkups
after the first
at our
one,
home base in Charlotte?
It was another 3 months.
Okay.
So I went in January, and then around March is when, this whole time they're checking my hormone levels, they're checking the intended parents or the surrogates' hormone levels and everything. They have to match perfectly.
Wow.
And so they would say, hey,
I didn't know that.
Skip Thursday on your birth control pack. Okay, let's get a new one and start on Sunday. So everything was very, very meticulous and perfectly timed. So it was about 3 months where, they're talking to the clinic too. They had to wait on responses. They had to wait on the blood panels to come back. It took about 3 months, and then they started to coordinate the next trip and where the retrieval would be. And that's when they coordinated me getting my medication.
So can you talk a little bit about the process once you get on the medication that they give to you? What exactly the medication is and how you're supposed to take it? Sure.
So all of the medication is done by self-injection.
Yes. Did you hear that? Self-injection.
And they went over everything. They showed me how to do it and everything in my initial visit in January when I first went down for my checkup. They sat me down and kind of went through what it looked like. They had the whole kit there. They showed me how to do it, and they explained this is not really going to be painful. It's really simple. Don't get confused. We're here to help, sort of thing. And that was really nice. I wasn't nervous at all. Then when I finally got it, it's this giant refrigerated box. I'm talking like 2 feet by 2 feet.
Yeah.
Refrigerated box.
And the needles are
full of stuff.
The needles aren't gigantic, but they're by no means small.
So they're small. They're super small. There's three. I was on 3 types of medication, but I know it can vary between people just depending on what their levels look like. For me, one was to increase my fertility, so that my egg follicles there would be more of them. Usually, your body only produces 1 follicle per month during your cycle. But the whole point of doing an egg retrieval is that they would keep the rest of the small ones that usually die off, they would keep those alive, and then they would have more to choose from. So you're not really giving away any more eggs than you would in one cycle.
It's just so insane to think that you can do this.
So one medication is to keep those follicles healthy, keep them all alive, so you're going to have more to choose from, which increases the chance of getting a good pregnancy match. Another one is is to keep your estrogen levels lower so that you don't overstimulate or hyperstimulate your ovaries, which is just a safety precaution. And then the other one, the last one I took is, I'm trying to think.
If you don't remember, it's okay, because I have a question about the hyperstimulation of the ovaries in the meantime. If that happens, what does that mean? What results?
I believe...
Does your oven explode?
I believe your ovaries can develop cysts.
Okay.
I believe that it would severely decrease your chance of a natural pregnancy.
Okay.
In the future. But I'm not extremely knowledgeable about the overstimulation. I probably should be, but I didn't.
But it didn't happen.
It did not happen.
Okay.
And one of the things they make sure you know is to stay hydrated, because that can help prevent hyperstimulation as well.
Now, I'm going to step in here and say, for this last piece...
We didn't talk about the medication.
I was about to add on a medication.
Oh.
So when I saw the needles, I did offer to inject Mary, and they had to be in her belly. She preferred to do it herself. So I would watch her inject herself, which, unless you're a diabetic and you do this already as part of your life, or I don't know if we have many drug addict listeners who are shooting up heroin, but unless you have a reason that you've injected yourself with a needle, it's a bit awkward. Would you say, as the person who did it?
No.
It wasn't uncomfortable at all to stick a needle in yourself?
Oh, you said awkward.
Awkward, uncomfortable would be parallel to uncomfortable in my mind.
I would say it was slightly painful. I wouldn't say it was uncomfortable, like, ooh, I feel uncomfortable in this situation. I felt very comfortable, actually, because they had given me all these instructions and little video guides and, the little alcohol swabs so you can clean everything. And I kind of liked it. I felt like a scientist. With little vials and syringes and things, and it was very cool, actually. But then when the time came, like my first injection, the needle, is it a needle? Getting weirded out. Is it a needle?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's it's in the vial, but it's syringe, and the needle is going into it.
The needle is about 3/4 of an inch.
That's not a tiny needle. It's not huge, but it's sizable.
There was one that was a full inch, and that was a little bit harder. I don't even know, that 1/4 inch, it really psyched me out, because you can see the difference. But anyway, yeah, it wasn't so bad. I think I told my cycle coordinator this, that after the first injection, I realized, that didn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
It was in my head.
Exactly.
And so the next day, I'm sitting there holding it, and I'm not able to do it. And I'm thinking, this is so stupid. I did this yesterday, and it didn't hurt. But in my head, I think it does hurt, even though I know it doesn't. It was just really confusing because my brain was not cooperating with my body. And that happened every single day for like 12 days.
And I have to say, witnessing Mary and supporting her through this, she is one of the most mentally tough people I've ever seen. I mean, I'm being for real. I'm not just trying to pour syrup and sugar on my wife right now. Although she'd like that, being complimented and loved, which of course I do. But I'm just speaking objectively here. Watching the process, she committed to it, and she drove herself through those challenges where her mind was like, I can't do this. And she fought through that. And that's a lot of mental fortitude to be able to do that. So you get through the shots, and they fly us out to Miami. Now you had to come with somebody.
Yeah, because during the retrieval, they put you under anesthesia. So general anesthesia. So they need to make sure you have someone to drive you home. So they flew us down, and I was taking all 3 medications at that time. So you have to bring all of it with you, and the hazardous waste container for your sharks.
Through the airport.
Yeah, that was interesting. There's a whole lot of stuff to bring. But we came down, and I had a checkup basically every other day in the morning, and they would take a vial of blood to make sure I still didn't have any diseases, and they would do a TVU, and they would count the follicles and see how big they were. And it's just a matter of time at that point. So it's going to be next week at some point. We're just waiting for the follicles to become mature, and they're waiting for them to get to a certain size. So that's why I keep checking up. I was hoping it would be on Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, which is what they predicted. But my eggs took a little bit longer to grow to be mature. So it ended up being Saturday morning.
So we were about 2 days longer than we thought we'd be here.
2 or 3, yeah. I had hoped to be back on Friday, but we are leaving today, which is Sunday.
So instead of a week, it was like 9 days,
It
maybe.
was a long week.
Yeah. But now, asking you about the process, okay? We know the whole process in your case because you got selected, and that plays into how long it's going to be for somebody. I think in my mind, I'm going through it. I guess it was a year?
It was about a year, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, throughout this process, what was your biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge was probably the blood drawing.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't really mind it now, but looking back,
You're a pro at this point.
it was so much. And I have pretty weak veins. They collapsed a couple times during this whole thing.
Yeah.
But just the amount, especially toward the end, the amount of times they have to draw blood it's a lot. It's every other day for like 3 weeks, but pretty much.
I felt horrible.
And so
for you.
You get one bad nurse who moves the needle around, and my elbow, my whole inner arm bruised so badly they could not draw from there anymore. So they had to get really creative. They tried the other arm. That didn't work. They tried the forearm a couple times. They had to do that.
They were going to look into your feet, right?
They couldn't do anything in my hands. They said they would probably have to do it in my leg. But I think they ended up they went into the one forearm, like I think 4 or 5 different times. I could see needle marks. And that's where they ended up putting the IV as well. It's pretty sore because there's a bone there. But yeah, I just have that was a rough procedure for me because it took so long.
And how many, they take it's not just one vial, they take vials.
The first time I got blood done, I think that was in October, and that was like 7 vials.
Jeez.
And then in January, another like 5 or 6. And then just now, like this past couple weeks, it's been 1 vial just to check diseases. So it's just a simple lab.
But like every day.
But every other day, yeah. 1 vial every other day. And then this is fun. They had lost my lab work from a few weeks ago. And they called me and they're like, did you go in for your lab work? Yes. When did you go in? We can't find the paperwork. They could not find it anywhere, even though I did go in. So they had to do it again the day before the retrieval.
Oh, man.
And they had to take like another 5 or 6. So it was a ton of blood work.
I'm just thinking about as a regular, person who gets maybe the physical once a year, and that's the only time I'm getting blood taken, and how much I dread it, and I have to look the other way and close my eyes and go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
And like you're doing it every other day or every day.
Well, it used to be like a really big deal, and now, I know it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But it's, I've been poking myself with needles for 2 weeks, so
yeah.
I know it's just a sting, and then after that, it's done. So.
Again, it does take mental fortitude to go through this.
I think that was the most difficult part for me. It's the most trying part.
What has been the biggest joy?
Oh, definitely the end of the retrieval. Just the whole, leading up to it and knowing that this is it. Someone's going to have a family now. I mean, the chances are still sort of small. You don't get 100% guarantee that this is going to work for them, but you get. I think it's over 50% chance that they will be able to carry a pregnancy. But that's just such a joy for me that I actually did something. I did something that could help them, and they're going to be so happy. I just wish I could see them. I wish I could meet them. I really do, and just wish them the best.
Do you feel any emotional attachment to the potential baby that they're having?
No, I really don't. I don't see it as a part of me. I've given this to them. I've given this egg to them so that they can have a family. It's not mine, it's theirs. It's just like, I don't know how to explain it otherwise. I've never done anything like this, but I don't see that's my child that I gave away, or that's my family that I would never have. I don't see it that way. I really see it as I've just given them an opportunity to have their own family.
And I think that's a big difference between egg donation and surrogate, because I've heard many surrogate moms are attached to the baby, and it's like
really hard.
It's very traumatic.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how I would probably become attached to carrying a baby.
Oxytocin, that hormone where you feel attachment to the child, and then you got to give it away.
Yeah.
Even though you know that's what you signed up to do. So I will say that it's great that was not part of this process, because that would have been terrible, I think.
Yeah.
Take us to the point, the day of retrieval. So you've never been under anesthesia. You have to get put under.
Yeah, it's not like a mask or anything like that. It's just through an IV.
And what are they doing that day? Like, what exactly is happening?
So they're going in, similar to a TVU, an ultrasound, they're going up and they can see all the follicles there. They'll take sort of like a syringe. They would puncture each follicle and extract the liquid that's inside it. And that will have
the yolk.
That will have the egg in it, and they'll take them out. So there's between 10 and 20 eggs per retrieval. They don't know how many there will be, and a lot of them will be small and probably die off. But they're looking for 3 to 5 mature eggs, and that's when they know to start the retrieval. So they just kind of suck them out. It's not like a suction, like an abortion would be a suction of the stuff that's inside. They're carefully extracting with a needle each egg, basically. Was there any
pain after the procedure?
There was a little, basically just a little crampy. Definitely I wasn't super sore or anything. I could move around fine, but just every now and then it felt like, kind of like the first day of your period, it was like just a little bit crampy. And now I'm fine. It's the day after, and I feel completely normal today.
Yeah.
They just say make sure you stay hydrated, rest, drink a lot of water, and eat a lot of protein because your body went through a lot. Even though I wasn't really awake for it, and it was a short procedure. It took maybe 30 minutes, but it was like, it's a big deal on your body. So
we should also reference the point that through the whole process, all the way up until the retrieval, you cannot have a sip of beer, wine, or alcohol. Not anything. And
you can't have sex.
Yeah.
And you can't drink alcohol. It was a rough month.
A month?
It was a month.
Well, you couldn't drink through the whole process. The sex part for a month.
No, drinking was a month.
Oh, I thought it was through the whole time.
A month.
Okay, just for a month. But still, we do like our wine.
We love our wine. I like a good whiskey at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that was definitely hard for me. I didn't think that would be hard, but it's...
But we had a celebration last night after the retrieval.
Oh, yeah.
And you woke up from your anesthesia. You took a nice nap after the retrieval.
I stayed very hydrated. They say, it's not encouraged to have alcohol after the retrieval because you may have dehydration, which can cause a hyperstimulation. But that doesn't mean you can't have any alcohol. I mean, they don't want you to have alcohol because you may endanger the health of the follicles.
So for every drink Mary had last night, I made sure she had a sip of water.
Oh, I had 4 cups of water. I had to pee 4 times during dinner. That can tell you how much I was drinking water.
Now, did you find that in your mind you're curious at all about who this child is going to be, what their name's going to be, their life? in the near future if this does come to fruition for this family? Is there any sort of curiosity in your mind?
Not at all.
For real?
For real.
Really?
To me, it's just another person in the world. I don't see it as like my child. That's what I was saying. Like I don't really see it as part of me. It's their baby, and it's like any other person I would meet on the street.
I wonder if you will bump into that person one day.
Probably not. I don't know if I'm coming back to Miami.
Well, on that note, would you do it again? And can you do it again, and what are the rules about that?
So, there is a limit to donation. I think it's 8 or 9 times, something like that. And I think it's...
Basically until your uterus falls out.
No. I think it is just, it's a health concern. You don't want to, again, overstimulate the ovaries. I think so much going on in there could start to potentially damage your ovaries. Would I do it again? We've been talking about it, and I might. Yeah. I might do it again. I'm just thinking about it, and I'm thinking, I feel so good. And even that week of blood testing and self-injections is a very small, short-term price to pay. Very little discomfort, really, for the gift of giving someone a family. So I think I might do it again. I mean, I would talk to you about it.
Yeah.
And we would probably go over the pros and cons, but I might. I think I would.
Now, I'll say as Mary's partner, and I hope she would vouch for me on this, I've been very neutral about the whole thing. I told her I would support her, whatever it is she wants to do. So once she decides, I have her back. I did not influence her and will not influence her.
But I know that
anyway.
I know that if Andrew was concerned in any way, he would say,
oh yeah,
I saw you like such and such, and that was really rough, and I don't want you to go through that again. And you would definitely speak up.
My biggest concern was you had never had anesthesia, and yesterday when you were in the procedure, right, I was separated from you, and it was taking longer than it was supposed to, and they called me in to the examination room, like outside the waiting room, and I said, what's going on? And they said, well, she's about to wake up, so just have a seat in here. Well, okay, it was 30 minutes later. I get up, and I'm like, is my wife okay? Because this whole thing is taking longer, and you told me the doctor would be in to talk to me like about 30 minutes ago, and he's not here. So is she okay? Are you not telling me something? Like, I was really starting to get concerned. And then finally the doctor came in, and he was pleasant. He was everything Mary said. He was a nice man. I didn't know he was so hands-on, but I guess you have to. And then finally, Mary texted me, pulled the car around front, and I don't know if Mary knows that I did this, if I told her. I went up, because, you got to remember, she's never done drugs. She's never been under anesthesia. I went up to the nurses, and I said, my wife just texted me to bring the car around front. Should I be doing this? I wanted to make sure she did not text without realizing that she's saying something, maybe wishful thinking, and they're like, no, she's ready. I said, okay.
All right, can I talk about the procedure a little, because you weren't in there?
Yeah.
So I get there, it's the crack of dawn on a Saturday morning, and I haven't eaten breakfast, I haven't drunk any water since midnight, and they take me into this little room where you strip down naked and you put on this tiny little paper robe. It's horrible color, mauve. And a blue shower cap for your head and blue footies for your feet.
Yeah, and it's all for sanitary reasons.
Yeah, but now it's just like you look horrible, and they put you on this like dentist bed thing. You're laying down in the middle of a small room.
How many people are surrounding you?
2. Okay. There's a female nurse and then the male anesthesiologist. So the nurse, she's taking my blood pressure with a cup. She's trying to put in my IV. That was rough. Tapes it all down.
Yeah.
They've got to put sensors on my chest and my arm. And they told me I could bring earphones and play my own music. So I did. I put them in, and I played a song that I really, really like on repeat.
What did you listen to?
I listened to, it's a new song by Swimming with Dolphins.
Okay.
I think it's called let you love.
By the way, I did request that she listen to the Mr. and Mrs. Yogi podcast on repeat, and she said no.
No, not during.
Not during the retrieval.
Yeah. So yeah, listen to my Swimming with Dolphins song, and it's just very peaceful, but it's also encouraging. So I had that in my head, and they didn't like start the IV right away. I think it took like 30 minutes to set everything up.
Yeah.
And this guy, the anesthesiologist, is just showing me pictures of his trip to Peru. I think trying to distract me.
Of course.
And he's just
that's exactly what he was doing.
And I'm just laying there like, this is the most boring thing ever. So he finally finishes that. And the doctor comes in, and he checks and says, all right, how are you feeling? Everything's looking good, okay. Do you have any questions? I mean, they've been very thorough with all the information. And then they told me, this is the last thing I remember, is they told me.
The last thing I remember.
They said, okay, we've turned the IV on. You're going to feel it in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
What's your name? I'm like, Mary Faith Gordon. And they're like, what's your date of birth? And I'm like, 125. And then they like write it down. They're like, okay, it's her for sure. And then I remember them strapping my legs with Velcro, like a crazy person, to these boards.
There's good reasons they do that.
Well, it's a very specific procedure. They need to make sure you don't move.
Exactly.
But it's not the stirrups like you would think. It's like these flat out boards.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then I don't remember going to sleep, but I remember waking up and thinking, someone took my earphones out.
They
and
did?
my music's not playing.
That's
so
funny.
They took my pods out and put them back in the case.
Yeah.
Paused my phone. And then, and no one is in the room except the nurse now. So I never saw who did it. I guess it was my doctor. And they're kind of like, how do you feel?
How did you feel?
I was so loopy. I was like, hello. I couldn't really see it straight. And they're just like, here's a cup of water, drink some water. And then I was like trying to sit up, and they're like, whoa, don't sit up just yet. Like, just relax, it's okay. They started taking off all the sensors and stuff. They took my blood pressure again. And I guess it just didn't even click, like, it's over. Because I wish I could have asked, was it successful? How many did they get? How did it go?
You were not in that state of mind. I've never seen you like you are because, again, I'm the one who did drugs in my life.
Yeah.
I've never seen Mary, besides being, we've gotten drunk, but not, like, wasted.
Yeah. When we had, like, I was sitting there, and they kind of chatting with me a little bit to see how I'm feeling, how is my brain functioning. And after a little while, I think I was probably sitting there for about 10 minutes just trying to do deep breathing exercises to get my blood flowing.
That's my Mrs. Yogi.
I was trying. To the point where they're like, do you feel okay? Do you feel like you could stand? Because, like, I have to get dressed now.
Yes.
And so I did, and after I got dressed,
they had you in a wheelchair.
They sat me down in a wheelchair, and they said, go ahead and text your husband to pull the cart around.
Okay.
I was like, this is so weird. I barely texted it correctly. It was weird to touch those keys. And it was just like this kind of blurry moment. Like they wheeled me out. No, I didn't have to sign anything. I didn't have to talk to anybody. They just wheeled me out of the hospital, basically, at the clinic, and you drove around, and that was it. And it's weird because I don't have any further contact with them. And I'm disappointed about that. I wish there was a follow-up visit with my doctor to kind of go over how it went.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
It's a little weird. Like, one and done. They're out. Next, come on.
Hit it and quit it.
Yeah. So, that's kind of my perspective about the whole thing. By the time I was out by the car, I was a little bit dizzy, but I was pretty much with it.
Yeah, you handled it really... I was expecting a lot worse. And all I really had to do was just hold your hand and put my arm around you.
You did such a good job.
I think it was more emotional support than physical, honestly. You handled it really well.
I mean, it wasn't like I kept thinking, I'm going to feel like I had stitches, in my stomach, and I can't strain myself. But that's not really at all like it is. You can walk around, you can jump up and down, that's fine. Because you're not straining anything. You're really only resting because you're a little bit in pain. The insides of you are a little bit sore, and they're a little bit
I guess the only question that I have left is when can we make love again?
They say a day or two,
All right.
just to make sure things are tightened
I'll
up.
hang on a little bit more. And there you have it. The eggciting experience of egg donation in Miami for Mr. and Mrs. Yogi. Thank you for listening.
That's it.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Yoga Movie